Hey, fucking stupid copyright claims. What's up? And today I'm gonna do another mini album review. In fact, it's 12:56 at noon right now, p.m., and I still haven't eaten breakfast or lunch, so I'm starving myself to death slowly. So, yeah, I'm running a lot of time. I'm running out of time. Not a lot of. What am I even trying to say? Yeah, anyway, I just finished up the entire script for the album review for like an hour, and I need to do it quick. So let's start off by talking about Blood Orange with their new album Negro Swan. Originally, I kind of don't want to talk about their album, even though it's a great album in my opinion. I want to talk about it, okay? So Blood Orange, basically, it's Devonte Hines, a British singer, and their last album, Freetown Sound, is okay despite it being a little inconsistent and a little too loose. But this album is really solid. Once again, like Freetown Sound, it's airy, it's spacey, sensual, and passionate and intimate, but on this album, it's stringed together way better. And I feel like this album explored the genre of synth funk and R&B way more deeply and way more emotionally and passionately. And wow, my mouth hurts. Oh, damn. And I also like how luscious and intimate the instrumentals are. They are also very moody, dreamy, and holistic. And not only is this album dreamy and moody, I think the themes of isolation and fear also bleeds into a lot of the tracks on this album. There are a few flaws on this album, like that this album is a little all over the place, but at the same time, it feels like it is lightly stringed together by Dev Hines, because every track sort of gives each other a little more context in terms of sound, so that's a great thing about this album. The album starts off with Orlando, which I love. I love this track so much, and it's this groovy, psychedelic, calm after the storm track. It sounds like a lot like Marvin Gaye, but in a good way. And I think the vocals on this track are incredibly sweet, and the guitars, the way they move, it's so watery, and it's quite catchy and sweet. Next track, Saint, is probably my favorite track on the album. The vocals are very bright and catchy and passionate, and light your darkest thoughts. And the saxophone and string solos in this track is very eerie and ominous, and it just gives this track such texture and persona. The track Charcoal Baby is also incredibly amazing. Before that track, we have a little interview clip featuring Janae Mock, and it's about family, and we transition into Charcoal Baby, which is also a track about being in a family, wanting to be accepted, not being the odd one out. And overall, this track is just really solid, and I love the sturdy and dreamy and laid-back guitars. And the track Jewelry also feels similar, except it's way more moody, and the vocal harmonies feel like they are from a musical. They are angelic. But this track also has a very laid-back and casual rap verse, plus a very jazzy saxophone solo that I dig. The track Hope, damn, it's really good. The rich and grand pianos and the gorgeous vocals are incredibly dreamy, and the R&B fusion, the style on this track is just so intimate and sensual, yet so sad at the same time. It's very beautiful. The track Holy Will is a little odd. It's like this art gospel track, and it feels like this track isn't finished, but still, I think it's okay. And we have the track Nappy Wonders, which is a very disorienting, odd, and beautiful guitar ballad track that I really love. The track Runnin is also a very solid track that I love. Absolutely beautiful. And there are also a couple of tracks, or more like a few tracks on this album that I don't quite dig, such as Dappin' Dreams, or am I saying it wrong? But it's this 90s throwback sing-along track that isn't really that finished. I think it's kind of catchy. The hook is kind of catchy, but overall the track is just a little underwritten, maybe. The track Out of the League, or Out of Your League, I didn't write much on this piece of paper, but Out of the League featuring Steve Lacy. I think it's decent. It's very moody and dreamy, but again, it doesn't feel as potent or strong emotionally as other tracks. The track Minetta Creek as well, I feel like it's a little unfinished. The track Smoke, however, is a surprisingly raw and organic and loose track. It's very strange and raw, and I kind of like the vibe of it. However, my least favorite track on the album is Chewing Gum, featuring A$AP Rocky. It's really awkward. A$AP Rocky's feature is incredibly awkward. It's weird, it's odd, it's trashy, and the instrumentals wise, it's not that great either. But still, overall, the album is very sensual, it's holistic, it's dreamy and moody, and it's just one of the best mood albums of the year. I'm giving Blood Orange's Negro Swan an 8 out of 10, and my favorite track is Saint, and my least favorite is Chewing Gum. And up next, we have the new Hermit and the Recluse album, Orpheus versus the Sirens. And they may sound like a new duo in the hip-hop community, but they are actually producer Annie Moz and rapper Ka. And Ka has a very distinct rap style, because his rap style is very slow, relaxed, and low-key. And that's why he kind of values quality over quantity on his albums and on his lyrics especially. And it really works out on this album. And yeah, this album is packed with dark, poetic verses, and this album has an overall concept surrounding Greek mythology. And they explore this concept not skin deep, but they really go into this concept in depth. And I like how every track is somehow related or deeply related to the entire Greek mythology concept. And also, this album, it's purity and obscurity, like one of the lines on the lyrics on the album. And overall, the concept just makes this album very captivating and intriguing. And the instrumentals on this album are also very, very beautiful. They are sometimes jazzy, sometimes drony, and very sweet sometimes as well. The album starts off with Sirens, which has a great spoken word intro. Like, this dude is playing harps, and suddenly this dude stopped, and Ka came, and Ka was like, oh no, keep playing. And it's just like we are being transported to this ancient Greek world, where Greek mythology is actually real. And I really like the dreamy, serene strings raining down from the heavens. It's beautiful. The track Fate is probably my favorite track on the album. It's very dreamy, and it has this very relaxing and groovy West Coast funk rock vibe to it. The track Argo is a more new age experimental ambient track, and we also get these very airy, hollow, and high-pitched strings that sort of runs through the track. The track Orpheus has more psychedelic guitars and drony synths, and it feels incredibly depressing but beautiful at the same time. The track Atlas is more sorrowful with the very moody guitars, despite the very odd bass line at first. And overall, the instrumentals of Atlas gives this track a lot of persona and texture. We also have the track Atlas, which has some very sorrowful and moody guitars and some odd bass line that gives this track a lot of persona. The track Golden Fleece is a very critical track in the album, because the phrase Golden Fleece is I guess repeatedly being said in the album. And the track Golden Fleece is a surprisingly summery, sweet synth pop, instrumentally speaking synth pop track. And the track The Punishment of Sisyphus, which is the next track, is incredibly cinematic. It has this old Kanye vibe to it, with the bright drums and strings. And the third verse of this track is absolutely amazing, and that just proves us that Ka is one of the best writers of lyrics in hip-hop community right now in 2018. And we also have the last 3 tracks of the album, which is relatively weaker, even though I love the last track, The Companion of Artemis, and it sounds like the end credits music of a very dark and and brutal documentary with the warpy strings and such. Not strings, but warpy guitars, bass guitars. Why am I stuttering? And we also have Hades, which is a little awkward in terms of the vocals, and the instrumentals are also pretty weak. Same for Oedipus. I don't know how to actually pronounce this word, but Oedipus. Yeah, the instrumentals are a little weak, and the horns loop, they are kind of redundant, and they kind of overshadow Ka's delivery itself. But still, overall, the album is incredibly beautiful. The concept is rock solid, and I just love the overall vibe of the album. I'm giving Orpheus versus the Sirens an 8 out of 10, and my favorite is Fate. My favorite is Fate, and my least favorite is Oedipus. And up next, we have the new album from Lewis Cole, Time. Yes, Lewis Cole, singer-songwriter, had released Time, and he's also one half of the duo Knower, with the other half being Genevieve Artadi, who's also frequently featured in this album as well. And surprisingly, he dropped this album in Flying Lotus's record label, which is really good, because now he has more support, I guess. And overall, I think this album is pretty nice, even though I don't think it's great or larger than life or anything. I think it's still a very smart, tight, and nifty and witty track with amazing sense of humor. And I love the jazzy synth funk vibe of this album. The hooks are very bright and tongue-in-cheek and catchy, and I love how socially awkward this album sounds. It's really me, you know? The album starts off with The Weird Part of the Night, which is actually a song released back in 2016. But damn, this track sets the party off. It's so amazing. It's funky, it's odd, it's glitchy, it's incredibly groovy. The bass of this thing is amazing. Between 326, when no one can fuck your shit. And the music video is incredibly awesome as well, with the weird moves and all that. It's amazing, and it makes Insomnia sound fun. The vocals on this track is also incredibly sharp, and I kind of like the little instrumental solo towards the end. The track When You're Ugly is also a golden track. It's very catchy, it's very sweet, and the lyrics of this track is just incredibly relatable, because I'm an ugly person. Just look at me. I'm ugly. When you're sexy, people want to talk to you. When you're ugly, no one wants to talk to you. Me, because I'm ugly. And Genevieve Artadi is also heavily featured on this track, which is amazing, and I find the horns very luscious and beautiful. And we also have other tracks on this album that are more speedy and catchy, like Real Life. It's very fun, it's very speedy, and it's very catchy as well, especially in the chorus where it's kind of chopped up. Real life is fucked up, real life finally. And we also have Freaky Times, which has a very fun, weird rap sample towards the beginning that I love, and I love how video-esque this track sounds. I love the speedy, funky, sour, and bright instrumentals of this track as well. And we also have other tracks that are more slow and more moody, like Everytime, which is basically the third track. Yeah, the flow is a little awkward because of these slow ballads, but still, I think it's an incredibly gorgeous piano ballad, Everytime, that is. Also Phone, which is a more slow and disorienting track, and it reminds me a lot of Bill Wirtz, the YouTuber, Bill Wirtz. Yeah. And it's still kind of groovy and kind of fun. The track Tunnels in the Air features Thundercat, and this track is very euphoric. I love the dense synths, and the beat is very odd, and I enjoy it. The track before that, however, is More Love, Less Hate, which is an ambient track randomly thrown in the middle of the track list. But come on, everyone's doing it in 2018. Sophie's doing it, Zeal and Ardor did it, but haha, Radiohead did it first, I think. But yeah, the track After the Load is Blown is the song title, like, After the Load is Blown. But the strings are kind of crazy on this track, and it's a little awkward and upbeat at the same time, and I dig it a little bit. And the track A Little Bit of Time, although it's not great or anything, I still think it's decent. It's this sweet little carefree song that I dig. The track Things is also a highlight on this album. It's bright but cloudy at the same time, and also very catchy and euphoric. The album ends off with Night, which is sleepy, underwritten, and a little underwhelming because I wish it would have gotten to a more explosive climax, maybe. But the track The Last Time You Went Away is an oddball on the track list because it's this weird, cinematic, moody, musical song without any solid structure, backed up by these crazy crazy cinematic strings. It's really weird. And the track Try Not to Die is actually one of my favorites on the track list as well. It's very jazzy and fun and dizzying. And overall, I dig this album quite a bit. And I'm giving Lewis Cole's Time a 7 to an 8 out of 10 once again. And my favorite is Weird Part of the Night, and my least favorite is Night. That's ironic. Oh shit, it's 1:13 p.m. Let's do it ASAP. Paul McCartney. Why do I taste blood in my mouth? Anyway, Paul McCartney, new album, Egypt Station. You know Paul McCartney. He is 1/4 of the Beatles, which is basically one of the best bands ever, if not the best, even though I would say Radiohead is the best. But still, Paul McCartney, legendary artist, who's really old now, so, everyone could easily understand that Paul McCartney has lost his touch a little bit, but still, I don't think this album is really terrible. There are a few tracks that I actually quite enjoy, like the track I Don't Know, which is a very nice, disorienting folk pop ballad with a very personal and passionate and intimate touch to it. The track Confidante is a sweet little folky ballad that I enjoy. It's more sincere and bare bones. The track Dominoes is also one of the highlights of the album. It's more moody but bright at the same time, and the synths, it's like they're kind of disembodied, and I like it. And the album Ender, Hunt You Down / Naked / See Link, is a very intriguing, multifaceted prog rock folk pop blend with some nice guitar leads, and I find this track kind of creative. But there are also tracks that are kind of awkward, like especially when Paul McCartney tries to be a little more hardcore, a little more heavier with the rock sounds, and like the tracks Come On To Me and Who Cares. Like, I guess I think it's decent, but not great. It sounds like, your average 60s, 70s rock music, and it's already the 2010s now. In fact, it's about to be the 2020s, so it's outdated. It sounds very outdated. And we also have tracks like People Want Peace and Hand in Hand, which sounds like outdated 60s old school pop rock track with weak instrumentals. They sound incredibly inconsistent and very uninteresting. The track Back in Brazil sounds a little more interesting though, because essentially Paul McCartney is trying to do this Brazilian Zumba beat thing, but it just kind of comes off awkwardly, and it kind of falls flat itself, so I don't care for this track at all. The track Despite Repeated Warnings is actually a quite interesting track because this track sort of tells the story of a captain of like a boat, something, I don't know, but still, the instrumentals don't really do much to this track, so I'm passing on this track. The track For You is utter trash. Oh my gosh. It's the only track in the track list where Paul McCartney tries super duper hard to appeal to the millennials right now. And it's just pure trash. It's every trashy pop cliche ever, but without the edginess and with the moronically optimistic optimism. That's what I'm trying to say. And with the millennial whoops and the come on baby now, it's just, jeez, stop it, get some help. Oh, yeah, that's one of the worst tracks of the year. So yeah, my favorite is I Don't Know, my least favorite is Fuck You. I'm giving Paul McCartney's Egypt Station a 4 to a 5 out of 10. Also occurred to me to do a little review for a very trash album. That new Russ album, Zoo, yeah, Russ is still taking a huge fat L. Yeah, New Jersey rapper Russ, he's back. You know that fake woke Russ who claims to be vibing in a different wavelength? Like, what the fuck? Like, does he even know what he's talking about? But yeah, he's fake woke. He's very arrogant and prideful. He's bragging all the time. Yeah, I have a new car. I have a new house. I'm caring for my family. Like, why is that something to brag about? And Russ is, you know, repeatedly attacking and taking shots, firing shots at other rappers in the industry. Repeatedly, simply because he's not being welcomed in the hip-hop community himself, so he's kind of blaming it on everyone else, so, come on. Also, there's a hearsay saying that he and his crew beat up Smoke Perp, which is incredibly dumb and stupid. And overall, instrumentally speaking, this album isn't really that great either. It's like they find a cool little piece of instrumental and they slap a rap verse on it, and that's it. There are a couple of tracks on this album that I still kind of enjoy, like the track Outlaw. The vocal sample is, it's okay. The beat is kind of polite. The track Kill Them All is perhaps the best on the album. The beat is kind of nice. It's kind of intimate. And the guitars gives this track a little nice feel to it. The track Voicemail. The track Voicemail is also one of the highlights of the album. And the track Parkstone Drive, the lyrics on this track is probably the most respectable lyrics on the entire album. Talking about money, tearing family apart. And the instrumentals are pretty nice, not gonna lie. But the rest of the album, pretty trash, like Missing You Crazy and Last Forever featuring Rick Ross and Snoop Dogg. They are utter trash, okay? They are these buttery pop songs, like the kind of pop songs that Drake would make, except without the personality that Drake has. And it's just really awkward and trashy with the trap-influenced sound of the tracks. The track Flute Song is kind of hideous. It's not terrible, but it's kind of hideous. The flute on this thing is sloppy, it's trashy, and it's weird. But again, I don't know why I didn't talk about this, but Voicemail. Again, it's decent. I think the track is okay. I like how the guitars are kind of cycled around. But comparing tracks like Voicemail to other tracks, like the track From a Distant, it's a really weak and sleepy and hollow track, and the lyrics are really trashy, talking about a stranger girl whom Russ doesn't even know that well. And the track Begging You has this weird warpy sound that sounds like Skype. And it's just very cheap. The singing is incredibly obnoxious, and I don't like it. The track Serious is just a very trashy, cliche pop song. The track Keep My Wits is just repetitive and redundant as hell. The track Keep It Pushin' is just a sleepy non-song. It's very slow and hollow. And the album ends off with Fuck That, which is incredibly weak and awkward and underwritten and underwhelming. I'm running out of time. Yeah, my least favorite is Missing You Crazy, and my favorite is Kill Them All. I'm giving Russ's new album Zoo a 3 out of 10 because his personality sucks ass. But to improve the tone of the review of the video a little bit, let's end off the video by talking about the new Aphex Twin EP, Collapse EP. That's the title of the EP. Richard D. James, he is back, and damn. Richard D. James is responsible for one of the most important albums in the history of electronic music ever. That is Selected Ambient Works, 85 to 92. Go listen to that album. That album is a classic. But on this EP, Aphex Twin still has it. This EP took me by surprise, to be honest, because it's such cutting edge and new wave. It's amazing. The instrumentals of this track is still very decent. But the beat is more laid back towards the end, and the outro is kind of reverby, which is kind of weird and odd and awkward. And the EP ends off with P6, which is a relatively more stronger ending. It's not great, but I still think it's okay. It's decent. The progression of the track is a little more fluid, is a little more smooth. And I like how nice and bright the groove and the bass is on this track. And it's just this weird track that gives this old 90s IDM vibe. It's just not as cutting edge as the first 4 tracks. But yeah, still, I'm digging this EP a lot. Richard D. James still has it. I'm giving this new EP, Collapse EP, an 8 out of 10. And my favorite track is T69 Collapse or MT1 TR29 R2. One of them, and my least favorite is probably Abundance 10 Edit. So have you listened to all of these 6 releases from 1 to 10? How much would you rate them? Like if you like them, hate if you hate them, and subscribe if you want more. I'm running out of time. It's 1:26 p.m. I need to leave now ASAP.